Popeyes, synonymous with succulent fried chicken and bold Cajun flavors, has left an indelible mark in the culinary world. This is a story of a company that has enticed palates worldwide while showing incredible resilience in the face of the restaurant industry's unpredictability. Popeyes has endured the business' exhilarating and terrifying highs, from its humble start as a New Orleans restaurant to the pinnacles of fast food glory. However, it still lives on as a genuine culinary legend. What then is the formula for Popeye's lasting success? What tastes, innovations, and business practices have helped this brand succeed in a market recognized for its ferocious competition and ongoing change? Before we dig, smash the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, also known simply as Popeyes, is a popular international chain of fast food eateries in the United States. The organization, founded in 1972 in New Orleans, Louisiana, now has its corporate office in Miami. The founder of the restaurant business Popeyes, Al Copeland, had a difficult childhood. His father had abandoned the family when he was born, so he grew up in abject poverty in New Orleans. To support her three children, Copeland's mother had to depend on assistance from the government. Copeland made the difficult choice to leave high school at the age of 16 to begin working. Fortunately, Tasty Donuts, a neighborhood chain of donut shops, was owned by Al Copeland's older brother. Al seized the chance to spend many years working there. He even went so far as to sell his car at 18 to launch his Tasty Donuts operation. Even though his business endeavor was a success, Al's entrepreneurial zeal continually encouraged him to look for new and better chances. After running his 4-year Tasty Donuts franchise, KFC built its first New Orleans location in 1966. Al observed KFC's success because they made 4 times as much money despite having shorter hours. It made him consider converting his donut company to fried chicken, thinking it would be more lucrative. Then, to succeed in this new business, he invested the time to plan, develop recipes, and take calculated risks. In 1971, Al Copeland opened Chicken on the Run, a fried chicken restaurant with the slogan, "So fast you get your chicken before you get your change." Despite the catchy slogan, the business faced financial difficulties, incurring $2,000 in weekly expenses while only generating around $1,100 in sales. Copeland decided to close the restaurant to make necessary changes temporarily. One of the changes Copeland made during this time was to adjust the recipe, adding more spice to give the food the distinctive Cajun flavor that Popeyes is known for today. This strategy made the business aware of its hometown identity while allowing it to stand out from the competition and appeal to local Louisiana customers. Popeyes became linked with Louisiana, whereas KFC was predominantly connected to Kentucky. By 1977, Popeyes had reached a significant milestone with 50 locations, all owned by the company. It was at this point that they began franchising their sites as a means to accelerate their expansion. Just a year later, in 1978, the number of Popeyes restaurants had grown to 125, with locations scattered across the country. By this time, they had rebranded to Popeyes Famous Fried Chicken and had launched their iconic Love That Chicken campaign. Their annual sales had reached millions, marking the beginning of the restaurant chain that we recognize today. Their primary focus was expanding and opening more locations across the country. Throughout the 1980s, Popeyes continued to do precisely what you'd anticipate: expand their presence in the ways expected for a growing restaurant chain. They introduced new menu items like the 39-cent mini chicken sandwich named Little Chickadees. These additions were heavily promoted through national advertising campaigns, and the profits generated were reinvested into the business for further growth and development. Popeyes also established franchising deals, encouraging entrepreneurs to open multiple locations simultaneously, further expanding their presence. By 1985, Popeyes had grown to 500 locations, and Al Copeland had accumulated significant wealth. However, his journey also involved some ups and downs, which added an intriguing and entertaining aspect to the story of the company's development. Al Copeland lived a life of luxury that defied any conventional definition. His lifestyle consistently pushed the boundaries of reasonable or necessary, often with an exorbitantly high price tag, indulging in expenditures far beyond what most deem to be essential. In the context of the fried chicken industry during the 1980s, KFC stood as the undisputable leader at the number one spot, rendering any comparison with others in the field practically irrelevant. Following KFC's undisputed reign at number one in the fried chicken industry during the 1980s, the spotlight shifted to Church's Chicken at number two, notable for using the apostrophe in their name. Meanwhile, Popeyes occupied the third spot in this competitive landscape. However, Church's Chicken faced a series of challenges during this time. The frequent changes in their management teams led to a string of failed menu items, among other issues. The crucial point was that Church's Chicken was experiencing a decline in sales, and the outlook appeared far from promising. Surprisingly, despite boasting roughly twice as many locations as Popeyes, their sales figures only marginally exceeded those of Popeyes, rendering the two chains somewhat similar in performance. Al Copeland made a startling bid to buy Church's Chicken in 1988 that was thought to be a hostile takeover effort for $290 million. Within the church, there was a speculation that this project may have been motivated by data given by former executives who had moved on to work for Popeyes. A significant legal dispute emerged, causing turmoil and confusion. However, mere months down the line, they ultimately reached an agreement to merge. During this period, the public held ownership of the churches as it was publicly traded on the stock market. In a monumental decision, Al Copeland committed to acquiring more than 30 million shares for $11 per share, amounting to $330 million. However, even with the acquisition of those 30 million shares, Al Copeland still only held 86.5% of the company. To secure the remaining portion, he offered stock in the newly formed merged entity, which led to the valuation of the entire deal to reach nearly $400 million. Al Copeland did not possess $400 million in funds. They had to secure a loan of approximately $450 million to finance the entire venture, which came with substantial interest obligations. This merger between Church's and Popeyes raises question about the underlying motivation. What could be the true driving force behind this unexpected union? The coalition did result in a larger entity with a combined market share of 17%. However, this move did not significantly close the gap compared to the industry giant KFC, which held a market share exceeding 50%. It's still being determined if this merger was part of a broader strategy, as no obvious contender below them was poised to challenge their positions. It doesn't appear to have been a defensive maneuver. It's plausible that they recognized a significant potential in the church's restaurant chain. However, it is also likely that the church was facing a decline and wasn't perceived to have a promising future. While it's possible that this merger was a calculated and aggressive strategic move, it's essential to consider what we know about Al Copeland to understand his motivations better. The outcome of the merger was predictable. Church continued to face challenges, some even arguing that this situation worsened rather than improved. During this time, they were burdened with annual interest payments exceeding $50 million. In 1989, despite reporting a revenue of $400 million, the cumulative financial pressures resulted in a substantial loss of $36 million for the year. The financial strain became intolerable by the end of 1990, and they could no longer pay debt. They put a lot of effort into restructuring and delaying their financial responsibilities over the few following months, but finally, it was inevitable. They had no option but to submit a petition for bankruptcy in April of 1991. As their primary creditor, the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce significantly funded Copeland's acquisition. Consequently, when the company filed for bankruptcy, the bankruptcy court ruled it would gain ownership of nearly all assets and holdings. After acquiring Popeyes and Church's, they created a new parent business called AFC, an abbreviation for America's Favorite Chicken Business. Although the current scenario had been complicated, this shift represented a significant transformation, and Al Copeland soon received some encouraging news. In 1984, Al Copeland initiated a separate company to supply ingredients to Popeyes restaurants. Interestingly, he also transferred the rights to the recipe for Popeye's signature offerings to this company. They quickly agreed that they would use the famous and closely guarded formula in return for Al Copeland to receive $3.1 million per year. This partnership lasted until 2014 when they decided to buy the recipe's rights. AFC's creation resulted in some essential advancements and modifications. Let's quickly go over some of the critical points. They recruited Frank Bellotti to oversee the company's turnaround during the beginning of the 1990s. Just a couple of years earlier, he had accomplished an improvement at Arby's, showcasing his skills. The strategy included some components, such as remodeling many eateries, preserving some degree of distinction between both restaurants while maintaining them under their ownership, increasing Church's presence in Canada, and implementing several brand building strategies. Once they had achieved improved results, their attention turned towards incorporating new brands into the business, with a particular emphasis on those that held strong appeal for potential franchising opportunities. Their strategy revolved around becoming a franchising powerhouse through aggressive promotion. In 2003, they encountered an accounting issue tied to Arthur Anderson, resulting in the necessity to restate their financial results, a situation that's never conducive to positive outcomes. An SEC investigation and a shareholder lawsuit brought to light significantly lower profits than what the public had been initially informed of. In response to this, AFC decided to divest itself of several other chains, redirecting its focus exclusively towards Popeyes. The funds generated from those divestitures aided them in navigating the scandal, including settling lawsuits and addressing various other financial obligations, and provided the means to make further investments in Popeyes. AFC changed its name to Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen in 2014, emphasizing its roots. Returning to our first point, Burger King restaurant brand's owners purchased the entire business in 2017 for $1.8 billion. So what's the key component to Popeye's success? It's a concoction of potent tastes, creativity, tenacity, and a pinch of Louisiana spice that has tempted the palate and secured an enduring position in the chronicles of the fast food history. Like the famous chicken that carries its name, it has a lasting legacy. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this fascinating journey of Popeyes and its founder, Al Copeland. What are your impressions of the brand's evolution and its challenges? Please share your comments and let us know what you think.